Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, being my true original self, bringing you guys a brand new 2020 album review. And today we're going to be looking into the new album from old school death metal band Vader, entitled Solitude and Madness, which came out today through Nuclear Blast Records. Now, Vader, for those of you who aren't familiar with Vader, they're a death metal band hailing all the way from Poland, and these guys have been around since 1983. And in my opinion, I feel like Vader is totally underrated and totally underlooked. Like sure, there's like the best death metal bands, especially from only mostly the Tampa scene, like Cannibal Corpse and stuff. But I feel like in Poland, Vader, along with like other bands like death metal or black and death metal bands like Behemoth and Hate. I feel like Vader is pretty much the best. I feel like they're totally underlooked. Like I don't even know. Like this album itself is of course the follow up to their 2016, their previous album being The Empire, which came out in 2016. And they had like an EP or so before that. In fact, two of the songs that are from their EP that came out last year, called Die Messenger, actually appears on this album. And this album is, of course, I believe, really short. In fact, some people would consider this to be kind of like an EP, kind of like given the length of the album. But I feel like Vader itself has I feel like they pretty much do like if you want to listen to this album, you could tell like you could just expect just quality album versus the quantity. I'm sure it feels like 30 minutes of an album just feels kind of short, but the solution is just play it on loop. That way you'll be wanting more. I don't even know how they do this. Like these guys have just been around. Like the vocals from Peter is just great. Like I just like his just really just growls and just like I don't know. No, in some parts he actually kind of sounds like I mentioned, another one of my favorite Polish favorite bands from Poland, Behemoth. Like his vocals are just great, and just the guitar work is general from Pete and Spider are just like the riffs and just like the soloing on this album is just superb. The bass playing, I forget the name of their bass player on this album. His bass playing is just pretty audible. You could definitely hear it. Well, it pretty much cuts through in the mix. And then we go into the drumming. Like, what can I say about James Stewart? In my opinion, I feel like he's one of the most underrated drummers in death metal, or just in metal in general. Like, I just think he deserves more recognition. Like, the drumming he does is just fucking amazing. So without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is the song Shock and Awe, which kind of is kind of like how it described me when I first heard this song and just in this album. And just without any hesitation, just Vader kicks this album off with a bang. And it has like a sick high scream from Peter and just some killer drumming and some really sick guitar solos on here. I feel like this is one of the best guitar soloing I've heard from Vader to date. And moving on to the next song, which is Into Oblivion, which is like the last track. It hits you hard at like 1,000,000 miles per hour. And this song, Karyam, like I said, this song kind of reminds me a lot of like one of my favorite other Polish bands, Behemoth, like I mentioned before. But a little bit, just kind of like just like within the music a little bit, and Peter sounding a little bit like Nergal, but that's just my opinion. The guitar solos here and on this album, I forgot to mention, also kind of remind me a little bit of like Slayer a bit. You definitely tell like Vader definitely has death metal in them, but they also more have like a little bit of a thrash influence in here. And there's no denying that. Anyway, moving on to Despair, which is the shortest song on here, and it was taken from the Die Messenger EP that the band put out last year. And Vader gives it all in this minute and like 18-second long song. Just some sick vocals and guitar soloing, and just the drumming on here is just insane. Then we go into Incineration the Gods, which is a pretty good song. The first third of the song kind of sounds just very frantic and just insane instrumentally wise. Sanctification Denied, which is a very mid-paced song. The drum patterns here are pretty dope, and it's a very thrashy-like tune. Anyway, next on the album is called And Satan Wept, which is just a very evil sounding, pretty much hence the title, which makes like Satan want to cry. And it's just riff central here, and the song is just punishing from beginning to end. Anyway, then we move on to Emptiness, which is another song from the Die Messenger EP, which this could be, some people would consider that and Despair kind of like filler, but it's just, I don't know, it just really fits with the album. It pretty much goes with the flow. Oh, it starts off with an insane guitar solo, and musically it just sounds very thrashy here, and the vocals sort of like match the riffs in terms of sort of like the heaviness and the very momentum that the song has to offer. And then there's two more solos to follow, and it pretty much adds a little bit of a sense of melody and a great sound to the over track itself. And moving on to Final Declaration, which only 75% sent through this album, and the band already shows that they can produce some of the sickest death metal even after being around for nearly 30 years, which is just nuts that these guys have been in the game for this long. Anyway, moving on to the next song, which is Dancing in the Slaughterhouse, which has a very sick build up with drums and guitars for about 25 seconds or so. Just, you could definitely tell it just gets like louder and louder, and then it just pauses for like 1 second, and then before you hear a voice count, and then just all hell breaks loose. And I really love like it has a dual solo in here, which sounds really sick. Anyway, moving on to Stigma of the Divinity, which once again I feel like James's drumming here just doesn't let up. And like I said before, he's one of the most underrated drummers in metal, or just in stream music in general. And just the riffing on here is just really good. Anyway, then the album closes with Bones, which is a great way to end this album off. With just Vader just giving it all. It's a good all in all in this 30-minute album. Now overall. The new Vader album is just fucking amazing. If you haven't heard this album, fucking listen to this. It's one of the best, or arguably one of the best death metal albums that have come out this year. So if I were to give the new Vader album a score, I'm going to give Solitude and Madness by Vader a perfect 9.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the new Vader, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.